There is a reason Grandma never skipped a single step in her kitchen. Every stir, every pause, every quiet moment by the stove had meaning. "Do not skip," she would say, her voice steady as the ticking of the old clock on the wall. She knew that good food came from patience, not shortcuts. Back then, recipes were not written on phones or websites. They were passed down by memory, carved into habit, and held together by trust. Folding dough a certain way or resting batter overnight was not superstition. It was wisdom tested through years of hungry winters and long family suppers. When money was tight, a single egg or stick of butter could not be wasted. Skipping a step meant risking the whole meal. Bread that did not rise. Stew that tasted flat. Grandma understood that time and care were ingredients too, just as vital as flour or salt. Today, we rush. Microwaves hum where cast iron once sang. Yet something is lost in that hurry, the quiet pride that came from doing it right. The old ways remind us that food is not only about feeding the body but also about honoring the hands that came before us. So the next time a recipe says let it rest, or simmer slowly, remember Grandma's words, do not skip. Because those small moments hold the soul of the dish, the history of a family, and the flavor of a time when love could be tasted. Subscribe to America's Lost Recipes and keep these traditions alive. Every story here is more than food, it is America's forgotten heartbeat, served one memory at a time. Mayonnaise scrambled eggs. In the kitchens of the 1960s and 1970s, scrambled eggs were more than breakfast. They were a lesson in subtle technique, a way to make simple ingredients extraordinary. One secret that many grandmothers used was a spoonful of mayonnaise. It may sound unusual today, but in that era, it transformed ordinary eggs into a creamy, luxurious dish. Mayonnaise is not just a condiment. It is a carefully balanced mixture of eggs, oil, and a touch of acid. When added to beaten eggs, it introduces fat and emulsifiers that create a uniform, golden mixture. The result is eggs that are soft, tender, and rich, without any dryness. This method allowed families to elevate an everyday meal without expensive ingredients or complicated techniques. To recreate this, a tablespoon of mayonnaise is whisked thoroughly into fresh eggs until the mixture is completely smooth. The eggs are then cooked over low heat, gently stirred to maintain their delicate texture. The acid in the mayonnaise helps the protein set evenly, preventing overcooking. The gentle fat ensures a creamy mouthfeel that modern shortcuts often fail to achieve. Many people today add milk or cream to eggs for richness, but grandmothers understood that mayonnaise could achieve the same effect with what was already available in the refrigerator. It was economical, reliable, and surprisingly effective. This simple trick is not just about flavor. It is a reminder of an era when attention to detail and clever use of pantry staples made every meal feel special. The next time you cook scrambled eggs, consider adding this forgotten ingredient. It connects you to the kitchens of the past, to grandmothers who knew that small, thoughtful touches created unforgettable meals. Subscribe to America's Lost Recipes to discover more hidden secrets from American kitchens, where history and flavor are inseparable. Grease pans with sugar. In the kitchens of the 1960s and 1970s, baking was both an art and a careful science. One of the cleverest tricks grandmothers used was greasing cake pans with sugar instead of the usual flour. This small adjustment created desserts that were not only easier to remove from the pan but also more visually appealing and flavorful. The process was simple but deliberate. First, the pan was thoroughly greased with butter, oil, or lard. Then, a thin layer of granulated sugar was sprinkled evenly over the surface. The pan was gently tapped to remove any excess, leaving a delicate, shimmering coating. During baking, the sugar caramelized, forming a golden, crisp crust that surrounded the cake. This created a subtle sweetness and a slightly crunchy exterior that contrasted perfectly with the soft interior. Beyond aesthetics, this technique enhanced flavor and texture. It prevented the cake from sticking while adding a rich, caramelized edge that modern nonstick pans often cannot replicate. It was a method born from practicality, using what was already available in the pantry, yet it elevated humble cakes into something memorable for family gatherings and holiday tables. Grandmothers relied on this method for everything from sponge cakes to chocolate desserts. It was particularly useful in an era when ovens varied in heat and consistency, ensuring that the finished product looked professional without requiring specialized tools. Today, with nonstick pans and silicone liners, this technique has almost disappeared. Yet, the results tell a story of ingenuity and care, showing that small, thoughtful steps can transform a recipe into a lasting memory. Subscribe to America's Lost Recipes to uncover more forgotten culinary secrets, where every trick reveals the history, flavor, and heart of American kitchens. Adding soy sauce to chocolate. In the kitchens of the 1970s, dessert creativity often came from unexpected combinations. One surprising trick grandmothers used was adding a small amount of soy sauce to chocolate desserts. It may sound unusual today, yet this secret ingredient brought depth, richness, and a subtle umami balance that transformed ordinary chocolate into something extraordinary. Soy sauce is not added to make the dessert salty. Instead, it enhances the natural flavors of chocolate. A mere half teaspoon added to brownie batter or chocolate frosting enriches the taste, highlighting the cocoa's complexity while counteracting excessive sweetness. This simple pantry item elevated everyday ingredients into desserts that felt luxurious, even when made with basic staples. The method is straightforward. When preparing chocolate recipes, stir the soy sauce into the mixture just before baking or finishing. It blends completely, leaving no discernible flavor of the sauce itself. The result is chocolate that is deeper in aroma and more intense in taste, giving the impression of using high-quality ingredients without the expense. Grandmothers discovered this technique through experimentation, understanding the principles of flavor balance long before culinary schools popularized umami. It was economical, creative, and effective, a hallmark of their approach to cooking. Today, chefs may use sea salt, miso, or specialty cocoa to achieve similar effects, but the clever use of soy sauce remains largely forgotten outside of vintage recipes. This trick is a reminder of how resourceful kitchens once were, transforming simple ingredients into memorable dishes that delighted families and guests. Subscribe to America's Lost Recipes to uncover more hidden gems from American kitchens. Each forgotten secret is not just a cooking tip, it is a story of ingenuity, culture, and the enduring power of food to connect generations. Tenderizing meat with vinegar. Before chemical meat tenderizers became widely available, grandmothers relied on natural and economical methods to soften tough cuts of meat. One of the most effective secrets was using vinegar. It was simple, accessible, and surprisingly powerful, turning ordinary cuts into tender, flavorful meals. Vinegar contains acetic acid, which gently breaks down the muscle fibers and connective tissues in meat. By soaking a piece of steak, shoulder, or other firm cuts in a diluted vinegar mixture, the meat became softer and easier to cook. The process also allowed spices and seasonings to penetrate more deeply, enhancing flavor throughout, rather than just on the surface. Grandmothers carefully controlled the concentration of vinegar and the soaking time. Too much vinegar or too long a soak could alter the texture, making the meat mushy. When used correctly, however, this method preserved the natural taste while ensuring tenderness. It was a clever solution for feeding large families without expensive cuts of beef or pork. This technique was particularly important during the 1960s and 1970s, when home cooks needed to stretch ingredients while maintaining high-quality meals. Vinegar was available in nearly every pantry, making it both practical and cost-effective. Modern kitchens often rely on mechanical tenderizers or powdered enhancers, but they cannot replicate the subtle improvement in texture and flavor achieved with vinegar. This method reminds us that resourcefulness and knowledge of simple ingredients were essential skills in American kitchens of the past. Subscribe to America's Lost Recipes to rediscover these forgotten techniques. Every tip and trick we share is a connection to a time when care, patience, and creativity transformed simple meals into cherished family memories. Pasta water to thicken sauce. In American kitchens of the 1960s and 1970s, pasta was becoming a beloved staple. Grandmothers discovered an ingenious way to elevate their sauces without extra cream or flour: pasta water. This simple, often discarded liquid was a secret weapon that created perfectly balanced and flavorful dishes. As pasta cooks, starch naturally releases into the boiling water. This starchy water is slightly cloudy and contains a subtle seasoning from the salt added to the pot. Instead of throwing it away, grandmothers reserved a portion to adjust sauces. Adding just a small cup of pasta water to a tomato or cream-based sauce created a smooth, cohesive texture that clung to the noodles. The starch acts as a natural thickener, enhancing the sauce's consistency without overpowering its flavor. At the same time, the slight salinity enhances taste, ensuring the pasta and sauce unite in every bite. The result is a dish where each strand is perfectly coated, not separated by thin, runny sauce. This method was particularly valuable in an era before pre-made sauces or convenient thickening agents. It allowed home cooks to achieve restaurant-quality results using ingredients they already had on hand. Grandmothers understood that small, thoughtful adjustments like this made a noticeable difference in both flavor and presentation. Today, many home cooks overlook this technique, relying on store-bought sauces or heavy cream to achieve thickness. Rediscovering pasta water is a reminder of the creativity and resourcefulness of past generations. Subscribe to America's Lost Recipes to uncover more forgotten culinary tricks. Each tip reconnects us to kitchens where ingenuity and simplicity turned everyday ingredients into meals full of flavor, memory, and history. Whipped cream made from banana and egg. In the kitchens of the 1960s and 1970s, resourcefulness was essential. Fresh cream was not always readily available, and saving money was a priority. Grandmothers developed clever alternatives to create fluffy, sweet toppings for desserts, one of the most inventive being whipped cream made from bananas and egg whites. The method was simple yet effective. Ripe bananas were mashed until smooth, providing natural sweetness and a slightly creamy texture. Egg whites were then beaten until stiff peaks formed, creating light, airy volume. The mashed banana was gently folded into the whipped egg whites, forming a delicate, fluffy mixture. The result was a dairy-free topping that was sweet, airy, and visually appealing, perfect for cakes, pies, and puddings. This technique showcased both ingenuity and practicality. Overripe bananas, often discarded, were repurposed into a key component, demonstrating the no-waste philosophy common in American kitchens of the time. It also provided a solution for households with limited access to fresh cream, yet still wanting desserts to feel special and indulgent. The combination of banana and egg whites created a texture that held well on desserts without collapsing, maintaining lightness while subtly enhancing flavor. The natural sugars from the banana balanced the richness of cakes and pastries, adding a nuanced sweetness that store-bought toppings often could not replicate. Though modern kitchens often rely on heavy cream or processed alternatives, this method is a reminder of the inventive spirit of past generations. Every ingredient was chosen with purpose, transforming simple staples into memorable culinary experiences. This whipped cream is not only a nostalgic taste of home but also an example of how creativity and careful technique can turn everyday ingredients into something extraordinary, preserving both flavor and tradition. Bacon grease. In American kitchens from the 1950s through the 1970s, no ingredient embodied frugality and flavor like bacon grease. Grandmothers carefully saved the fat rendered from frying bacon, understanding its power to transform ordinary dishes into rich, comforting meals. After cooking strips of bacon, the grease was strained to remove bits and stored in jars, ready to use in the next dish. This liquid gold was not wasted, it became a key component in many family recipes. It could replace butter or oil when sautéing vegetables, frying eggs, or baking cornbread. The smoky, savory notes it imparted were unmatched, turning simple ingredients into deeply flavorful dishes. One classic example was sautéed green beans. Instead of plain steaming, beans cooked in a spoonful of bacon grease absorbed the fat's smoky richness, creating a side dish that was both hearty and irresistible. Cornbread baked with bacon grease became slightly crisp on the edges while maintaining a moist, tender interior. Even everyday potatoes gained complexity and warmth when roasted or mashed with this flavorful fat. Bacon grease was not only about taste. It represented careful household management and a no-waste philosophy. Families made the most of every ingredient, understanding that flavor and economy could coexist. It was also a secret technique for encouraging children to enjoy vegetables and simple sides, turning humble meals into family favorites. While modern kitchens often favor olive oil or unsalted butter, the unique depth and aroma of bacon grease cannot be replaced. Its use speaks to a time when home cooking was both inventive and practical, preserving the character of family meals and the comforting smells of the old kitchen. Bacon grease was more than an ingredient, it was a culinary cornerstone, a symbol of resourcefulness, and a flavorful connection to the kitchens of past generations. Coconut milk rice. In the kitchens of the 1960s and 1970s, rice was far more than a simple side dish, it was the foundation of many family meals. Grandmothers discovered a way to elevate plain rice into a subtly sweet and luxuriously soft accompaniment by cooking it in coconut milk instead of water. The method was straightforward yet transformative. The amount of coconut milk used replaced the usual water in the rice recipe. As the rice simmered gently, it absorbed the natural fat and sweetness of the coconut milk. Each grain became tender, slightly creamy, and infused with a delicate aroma, creating a base that enhanced every main dish it accompanied. Coconut milk rice was versatile. It paired beautifully with spicy or richly flavored curries, stews, or vegetable dishes, balancing strong tastes with its smooth, slightly sweet profile. Grandmothers understood that the natural fats in coconut milk not only improved texture but also prevented the rice from sticking together, resulting in a perfect, fluffy consistency. This approach reflected both resourcefulness and attention to detail. Coconut milk was inexpensive and widely available, making it an accessible way to improve everyday meals without relying on butter, cream, or other costly ingredients. It also demonstrated an understanding of flavor harmony, as the subtle sweetness softened sharper or spicier dishes while providing an elegant texture. Modern kitchens often cook rice quickly in electric cookers or with plain water, overlooking the richness and aroma that coconut milk provides. Rediscovering this method is a reminder of the simple yet impactful techniques grandmothers employed to make meals memorable and satisfying. Coconut milk rice is not merely a side, it is an example of thoughtful cooking where minimal ingredients produce maximum flavor. Adding ice cubes to burger patties. In the 1970s, achieving perfectly juicy burgers at home required a touch of ingenuity. Grandmothers and home cooks discovered a clever technique that seems unusual today, placing a small ice cube in the center of each burger patty before cooking. This simple trick ensured that ground beef remained moist, tender, and full of flavor, even when cooked over a hot grill or stovetop. After seasoning the ground meat, a tiny ice cube was positioned in the middle of each patty. The meat was then gently molded around it so that the ice was fully encased. As the patty cooked, the ice melted slowly from the inside, releasing moisture directly into the center. This prevented the common problem of dry, overcooked burgers while maintaining a perfectly seared exterior. The method was both practical and economical. Ground beef could vary in fat content, and ovens or grills often cooked unevenly. By using ice cubes, home cooks could control moisture levels, creating consistent results for family dinners or small gatherings. Burgers cooked this way were tender, juicy, and flavorful from edge to center, producing a dining experience reminiscent of restaurant-quality patties. This technique reflects the resourcefulness of mid-century American kitchens. It relied on no special tools or chemicals, only careful preparation and understanding of how temperature and moisture interact in cooking meat. Grandmothers applied such techniques to ensure meals were enjoyable, economical, and memorable. Although modern pre-shaped and frozen patties or sophisticated grills have reduced the need for this trick, it remains a testament to creative cooking practices of the past. Adding ice cubes was more than a simple hack, it was a way to transform everyday ingredients into perfectly executed dishes. Potato salad mixed with pickle juice. In the kitchens of the 1950s and 1960s, potato salad was a staple at family picnics, potlucks, and Sunday dinners. Grandmothers developed clever methods to elevate this simple dish, and one of the most effective was adding pickle juice to the mixture. This addition balanced flavors, brightened the salad, and ensured every bite was fresh and memorable. After boiling and chopping potatoes, they were combined with classic ingredients such as mayonnaise, mustard, and herbs. Then, a few tablespoons of pickle juice from the jar of pickles were carefully stirred in. Unlike plain vinegar or lemon juice, pickle juice already carried a blend of spices, garlic, and dill, giving the salad subtle complexity without overpowering the main flavors. The tangy, slightly salty flavor of the pickle juice complemented the richness of the mayonnaise and eggs. It cut through the heaviness, adding a refreshing brightness that made the salad stand out at family gatherings. The juice also helped preserve the dish slightly longer, an important consideration for events prepared in advance or for outdoor picnics during warm weather. This method reflects the practical ingenuity of home cooks in mid-century America. Ingredients were often used creatively to maximize flavor and minimize waste. Pickle juice, which might otherwise have been discarded, became a key component in a beloved recipe, demonstrating frugality and culinary insight. Modern potato salads often rely solely on vinegar or bottled dressings, losing the nuanced flavor pickle juice provided. Grandmothers understood that even a small addition could transform an ordinary dish into something extraordinary. Potato salad mixed with pickle juice is more than a recipe, it is a glimpse into the resourcefulness and taste instincts of past generations.